Howdy folks, it's tasting day on the New Zealand New World Pilsner slash lager. Called it a Pilsner on the videos. I'll put Pilsner on my tap board. I have it as listed as a New Zealand lager in Brewfather. But yeah, go back, have a look at the original brew day, and you'll see what I mean, buddy. Enough addition in the grain bill to realistically step it out of the Pilsner category. I mean, that's exactly what we're looking at. 88% Pilsner malt, 7% biscuit, and 5% toffee malt. For original gravity of 1045. Looking for a middle ground as far as ABV goes, 4.6%. That's without any priming, so that's straight from the keg, straight from the fermenter. Yes, and just look at that little bit extra flavour from the toffee and the biscuit, bringing in biscuit to bring a little bit of European, that dry bready sort of a feel, and the toffee malt just to bring a little bit of sweetness, and some nice notes to sort of tie in with the New World sort of a vibe. Bitterness was Dr. Rudi, 0.39 grams a litre for 10.2 IBU at 40 minutes. Nectaron at 0.39 grams a litre for 5.4 IBU. 10 minutes left in the boil, and then dropped 0.43 grams a litre of Nelson Sauvin. Yeah, I know it's Nelson. I don't like Nelson, but for this beer, had to go. New World, New Zealand. We had to work with the more of the New Worldy hops. Yeah, just where the Nectaron and the Nelson Sauvin comes from. I did have some other hops, New Zealand hops here, but the Nelson was really the one I thought was going to work best for what I was trying to achieve out of what I had. That and the Nectaron. So that was 20 minutes in a hop stand at 90 degrees. Fermented with 3470 or Lalbrew Diamond, which was, the packet was one dry packet each in the half batch, 12 litre batches, 11 litre batches, 22 litre batch, split into two 11s. That pack was 2 years out of date, and I didn't realise. I thought it was out of date by about a month when I pitched it. Wasn't until I looked close. I just picked up a quick look at it when I pulled it out of the fridge in the morning of the brew day. It wasn't until later on, after I'd finished and finished with the brew day video, I'd cleaned up and everything, and the last thing I was doing was throwing the yeast packets out, and I picked it up and just bang, yeah, 2 years out of date. It was like September 2021 or something. It was out of date. I don't even know how it's lasted that long in the fridge, but it did. So I was very concerned how that was going to go. And that showed in the ferment. It lagged behind the whole way through. It took realistically an extra 24 hours to get going, and it just cruised along. It seemed to ferment all right once it got going, but it was still a very slow ferment compared to the 3470. The ferment profile was 11 degrees for 5 days, 14 for 4 days, 17 for 3 days, 20 for 2 days, and then cold crashed at 1 degree for 3 days. So it was a 9, 12, 14, 17 day ferment. 19, that adds up to 19 hours at work. Okay, yeah. In the end, it's ended up having a 5 day cold crash. I had set it for 3 days, it ended up being 5 days. Who knows why. But anyway, so that's how she is. And right from the outset, it's 34.7. The Diamond is clearer. The 3470 has not, even straight from out of the fermenter, the Diamond was clearer. Noticeably clearer. So that's, I find, very interesting. And I said again, particularly with being a bit older, I was concerned how it was going to bloody actually go. But they both got down to 10-12 with, yeah, at the end of the day, really no concerns. Ferment profile, yeah, seemed to work all right. I was a little concerned that maybe this was pushing up a little bit too quick due to that slow start. But at the end of the day, the second step was only 14 degrees and it had 5 days at 11. So I've had time to, yeah, kick in and, yeah, do its lagery thing down there nice and low. So, as you can see, neither one's poured a great head. The 3470's got a little bit more of a head there, but not a lot. I didn't pour them particularly hard. But yeah, I think the Diamond's really going to suffer, I'm assuming suffering from being old and probably not quite having the numbers that it really would have liked, particularly with that dry pitch. Anyway, let's have a go on them. Now, nose the same, there's no real discernible difference between the two yeasts. It's very, very similar. If anything, there's possibly just a slightly elevated hop nose on that. But there's not much hop nose at all. Like I said, there's only a little amount of hops. Enough to give it some character and to give it some little bit of note for that New World feel, but that's it. But at the end of the day, she smells like, yeah, it smells like a lager. It's not full grass, which certainly makes sense with the fruity, you know, late additions and the Whirlpool. It's going to override any grassy bitter notes that might come from the Dr. Rudi. So anyway, let's get a taster on this. Straight up, it's nice and reasonably fresh and, yeah, on the palate, nice, and it's not super snappy, but again, that's that hop effect coming on with those late additions, taking out that real snappy, you know, initial bitter hit. There's almost a creaminess in the mouthfeel, while still being reasonably clean and dry. Sort of a bit of a contradiction. It's more of a dryness in the beer itself, and then that little bit of creaminess coming through from that from the hop. See how the Diamond compares. Okay, that feels initially to be a little bit less creamy, not quite as full in the mouth. Yeah, well, I'm gonna say there's probably a little bit of effect from that lower pitch rate. There's definitely a little tone in there that's not in this, and I think it's more coming from that little bit of stress where that yeast has had to work, you know, a little bit harder than it would have liked. I said the yeast is, yeah, 2 years old. It's been in the fridge the whole time. It's been as well looked after as it could be, but that's a long time. There's going to be a lot of, a reasonable amount of nothing else of cell death at that sort of age. It's certainly long past this ideal, which really I'm really disappointed with, because I've never done a diamond comparison with the 3470, and I've wanted to. So I'm really very disappointed that I'm not getting a true indicator of how that is. But that underlying beer is nice. It's a tad snappier than the 3470. It's a bit cleaner. Like I said, there's just a little yeasty note going on, but beside that, the beer itself is very nice. The 3470 is quite nice as well. I said it is a little rounder. And whether that would be a bit rounder if it wasn't old, if it was fresh. So there's one thing I've learnt from underpitching, is it certainly strips a lot of body. People always think that yeast stress is going to make bad flavour, but that does more than that. It has an effect on the beer. And even though they're finished both at 10-12, quite often I found this, several times when I've played with it, underpitching strips body, which is why I always say, make sure you're not underpitching. Make sure you're pitching good, healthy numbers, because you're taking character out of your beer. But that aside, the beer works quite nice. I'm fairly happy with it. I don't think it needs a hell of a lot of tweaking. If anything, I'd say the toffee malt is probably a little too generous for the style. I think maybe just going the biscuit malt for a little bit extra may have been a better idea. Not that it's not an enjoyable beer, it's not tasty. It's just put a little too much sweetness into the finish, and it's almost starting to drag it into feels like it's wanting to drag it into a very light pale ale type of a vibe. But obviously there's not enough hops to do that. So yeah, that's really the only thing I would sort of look at with the recipe. I said it's 5% of the toffee malt. It's not a huge amount. Yeah, but just pull it out and just simply add that 5% back into your bloody base pilsner. Leave that biscuit malt at around that 7% mark. I think it's lending something interesting. Because you can actually taste that little bit of biscuit effect in the diamond more than there. So they are delivering two distinct flavours. As a stand, I've got to say I prefer that. I think the diamond's done a better job. In those two beers, just as they are, that is probably a little superior than that. But I think, as I said, taking away that tone that yeast has added, that I think is producing a better beer. Yeah, plenty of people are going to like it, especially as a new world. That little bit more, a little bit more sweet, bit more body than your traditional lager. Plenty of people would enjoy it. If you really do like your traditional lagers, then yeah, maybe you're not going to. But again, this isn't a beer for a traditional lager drinker. So take from that very roundabout grain reference, work out how you want to go with it. I think as it is, yeah, it goes fine. A good, healthy pitch of Diamond, I think, is the way to go. But there's certainly nothing wrong with the 3470 either. I can't really give one a thumbs up over the other because they've both got a different feel, and each is going to be more, it's going to be preferred in equal, I think, maybe not equal quantities, but there's certainly going to be brewers that prefer one over the other for all sorts of different reasons. Certainly can't say one's inherently better than the other. They just produced a slightly different finish, which is what I expected them to do to some degree. Well, actually, no, I didn't. I actually expected them to be very close. Given there's a lot of talk that Diamond's only 3470 anyway, but I didn't take a lot of notice of what the actual yeast itself looked like when I was pitching it either. But anyway, but that's it. That's a New Zealand, New World Pilsner / Lager, 3470 versus Diamond. It works. I said you can make a few changes to play around with it, but as far as the style goes, I'm really happy with that. I've not found a lot of commercial versions that I've been a great fan of. But that's certainly not bad, and I think it's worth having a crack at home. Especially this time of the year, leading into something else, the perfect time to be brewing this sort of stuff. Give it a good time to condition before you drink it in the summer. But brew it as a proper lager. Do it properly, get it down to lager temps, pitch plenty of bloody yeast and take your time with it. But anyway, that's me. Everybody, comments and questions down the bottom, as per bloody always. The links are all down there. Thumbs up and thanks to everybody. That's me. So until I see you again, when you're brewing beer, drinking beer and talking beer, good brewing.